Hi everybody, I am Gregory Drambour, owner of Sedona Sacred Journeys, a spiritual retreat organization here in Sedona, Arizona, the Magic Kingdom. So welcome to the Cancer and Illness Retreat page. I wanted to give you a little background about my cancer journey and also about the work that I do here with clients, helping them heal the possible emotional contributor to getting ill, or sometimes referred to as the cellular memory. I think an important part of any healing strategy. So let me talk about my cancer journey, which happened 11 years ago. It's when I was healed. I had stage 4 squamous cell carcinoma of the throat, pretty serious. Let me give you a little background before that. I had been around, before I got cancer, I had been around cancer quite a bit with my mom, my half-brother, and my dad. And, you know, I had a very holistic spiritual commitment going then, but in thinking, of course you think it's never going to happen to you, but it did. It started out stage 2, 3 with a tonsil cancer. And I could actually see it. It was 2 by 4 centimeters. And they recommended either radiation or surgery. And having been around holistic health for many years, I decided to take a breath before I pulled the trigger on conventional therapy. You know, I remember a story. I met this fellow. I was living in New York then, and I met this fellow out on Long Island. He had tongue and lip cancer. And I met him, I'll never forget, I met him for lunch, and he did surgery and radiation. They took half his tongue and they did a neck dissection. Man, it was pretty devastating. But he was so positive. It was just wonderful. And I never forget what he said to me. He says, "Greg, if I had it to do over again, I would have done 6 months of alternative healing. What difference would it have made?" And that really penetrated me. I think also what he said is, you know, in the Hippocratic Oath, it says, "First do no harm." So I decided to do the reverse of what people did. Now we're going back 15 years because I had cancer 4 years. And that was to do the alternative therapy first. Most people wait until they do the conventional therapy and they exhaust all their options, and then they do the alternative. And that doesn't always work out, as we know. And I work with a fellow by the name of Donald Jantz, really considered one of the top cancer herbalists in the country, someone even oncologists respect. And I'm going to put a little link to his website. He's based out of Ashland, Oregon. He exclusively works with cancer patients. And I had a lot of success shrinking the tumor, but I couldn't quite get it. And at some point it moved into my neck, and that's when I moved to stage 4, and my survival rate dropped from about 60-70 down to 20%. It's not that I pay attention to survival rates, but I think it's a good thing to take into your information base. Now, of course, during that first 3 years, I did a lot of emotional work, trying to clear out whatever the contributor might be, whatever the cellular memory might be. But obviously, I didn't quite get it because it showed up, you know, in a bigger way. And then I did conventional therapy. At first, I did something called a chemoassay. Back then, that was very controversial. It's where they take a biopsy of the tumor and then they tested it against different chemotherapy agents to see which one is the most effective. There's only 2 places, I think, in the country that do that, and one of them is the Wiesenthal Center in California. If you look that up online, they're terrific people. And again, we had a lot of success shrinking the primary tumor with that, but I couldn't get this tumor to really move. It was very large. And then I had found out that there was some technology that had finally come to New York. I had found it 3 years earlier. It's called IMRT, Intensity Modulated Radiation Therapy, or Parotid Gland Sparing Protocol. The radiation wrapped itself around this parotid gland so that you would have a better result and not lose as much saliva flow. Well, it had finally come to New York, and for some reason, the New York hospitals resisted it for many years. So I found out they were doing it down in St. Vincent's, and that's when I met the main man, Dr. Anthony Burson, who was extremely confident that he could cure me, especially without the surgery. So I went and did it, and I'm alive 11 years later. And I can't say enough about Dr. Burson. And then I came out into Sedona 11 years ago, and I did something called the Journey Work, developed by Brandon Bays. And that's when I discovered that sometimes the cellular memory or the emotional contributor to getting cancer or any other illness can be invisible. I put a little link to my journey session so you can read about it there. And it was all about when I was 2 years old. It was all about my dad. I had no problems with my dad. I was friends with him. But the 2-year-old had an enormous problem. That's when he left. See, I never connected those dots. Now, working with cancer patients and survivors and people with chronic illnesses over the last 11 years, I've learned a lot about what I would refer to as a multidimensional healing strategy. I think that sometimes people can get a little too focused in the mind-body connection or a little too focused in the alternative approach, as opposed to just looking at it with a lot of openness. I think we need to come at it from a lot of different angles because disease happens for a lot of different reasons. Certainly hereditary, genetic, lifestyle, diet, environment, the kind of thoughts that you're walking around with on a daily basis. Now, when it comes to cellular memory, the research is really amazing in the last 10 years. Most people get the big illnesses, to include cancer, for one of two reasons: a lack of forgiveness of oneself or somebody else at the adult or the inner child level. And again, sometimes that can be invisible. And what I've discovered, really interesting, is that I've never met anybody that doesn't believe in the mind-body connection. But when it comes to doing something about it, it gets very challenging. A lot of people just believe in it, but they don't do anything about it. If they're living in some kind of stress, if they're living in some kind of anger or resentment, then of course they don't, in that moment, are not believing in it. So it's my job on a retreat to find out what they're resisting, what change that they're afraid to make that will lower the probability of getting ill. Let's say when it comes to illness retreats, I work with, let's just say, 3 sets of people. I have folks that come here who have cancer, who are undergoing treatment or just finished treatment, and really smartly and wisely, they want to cover whatever emotional elements that are going on inside of them that could have possibly led to that disease. And we identify that and heal it, and so that we can lower the probability of that disease coming back again. Then I have clients that somewhere back in their past, they went through a big illness, but they realized they never addressed that work, and now they're ready to do it. Because sometimes it's about being ready to do it. It's about having real willingness as opposed to an intellectual willingness. Then I have clients that come on, let's just say, general retreats, but there's something inside of them that knows that they have a strategy for illness, and they're not sure how to not have that strategy. They know that they're living in some degree of negativity. They're living in their thinking in a lot of unhealthy, unproductive, negative thinking. They know they're not letting go of the past. They know if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to get sick. Now, those clients break up into 2 categories. The ones that want to do something about it, and the ones that represent they want to do something about it, but they're not really ready. And those clients, with their permission, of course, what I need to ask them, because I have to ask myself this, guys, is, does the bad thing have to happen for you to get it? Or could we possibly create a detour strategy? I have lots of detour strategies, and it's my job in partnership with you and clients to find out what is the most powerful one that will create the one that will be the most effective. Now, on the video above here, I talk about the petition to divinity. That is one strategy. The journey session is one strategy. Deeper inner child work is one strategy. Helping you get a deeper insight about how your thoughts are creating your feelings is another detour strategy. See, that's what happens, is that we all think that illness is not going to happen to us, cancer is not going to happen to us. Despite having it being surrounded by us, we think we'll be the one left off the list. That's certainly the way I felt. But if we can get really honest and courageous with ourselves and take a moment to do some deep healing work, some deep personal growth work, we can hopefully create a detour so that we don't need to have that illness to wake us up. You know, most people nowadays, because there's so much, the consciousness is so much higher, brothers and sisters, is that when they get an illness, especially if they're spiritually minded, they know that it's trying to tell them something. There's a gift wrapped up in the cancer. There's a gift wrapped up in chronic fatigue, or etc. And it helps them wake up. It helps them make a shift. You know, and again, can we make that shift before that happens? Because it's so much easier to make the shift then as opposed to the bigger problems that you're going to have being challenged by an illness. So that's my mission here in the Magic Kingdom, is to help folks resolve, heal, clear the emotional contributors that might have led to an illness, and finding a way that is easy and comfortable and not sometimes, you know, some of these methods they just put people through hell. I don't think that's necessary. I really don't. But it's important to know that there is a unique way you as an individual can heal that might not be right for somebody else, and that's my job with you, to find out what is that unique way. And that way it can be much more effective and certainly quicker. So that's part of my journey. It's been my great honor over the last 11 years, to work with cancer survivors and patients and people with all sorts of chronic illnesses. And I hope that, you know, it's just when they come into the office, there's a silent language that's spoken between us. You know, I often think that that's the gift that I received by getting cancer, is my ability to understand what people have gone through or are going through. We speak a language of a silent language. So guys, please feel free to email me for my retreat questionnaire, or to call me. And I hope you got something out of the video above. That's some very powerful stuff, and it's really if you can do that every day, every week, that will really make a difference. Okay, brothers and sisters, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you out here in the Magic Kingdom sometime soon. Aho! Aho!